This next stretch is for your iliotibial band, the side of your leg. So tensor fasciae lata and your iliotibial band. You'll feel it as well, maybe in the base of the back muscles as well. So we're standing exactly an arm's length away with your palm up. And we're going to you can rest your other hand on your hip, and you're swaying or you're leaning your hip towards the wall and being careful not to bend this elbow. So hip goes in, shoulders stay out, not bending the elbow. And you'll notice I'm tilting my foot down here. That allows me to get that hip closer to the wall as well. Where you'll feel this is definitely on the outside of the hip, so that's TFL, and that helps with that whole IT band and the side of your leg flexibility. Runners are notorious for having tight IT bands, so this is a great stretch for that. Again, you can actually do a little rotation of that hip to feel the different angles to get that right angle that you need to release and to stretch. So this is doing the other side. This will be my right side of my hip, the TFL and the IT band. Again, an arm's length away, palms up, no bend in the elbow. Feet are together. I'm going to direct my hips towards the wall, like that. If I want a little more range there, I'm going to tilt on my foot closest to the wall, so the right foot. That gets me a little closer. Again, keeping that elbow nice and straight so your shoulders aren't going in towards the wall. Just your hip, and you can feel that stretch on the outside of your hip, even the lower back of it. This is a classic runner stretch. This is for the calves. You feel this up in the hamstrings, the soleus, down into the heel. So we're going to turn around here. We're going to be a good couple feet away from the wall. Hands are going to be up nice and high on the wall. And you're going to walk your feet back until you've got a nice straight line from heel to hands on the wall. You'll feel a bit of pull down into your feet and your hamstrings, your calves. From here, we're going to put one foot forward within a foot of the wall, and slowly, keeping a nice straight line from head to heel, you're going to direct that close knee towards the wall. And you'll feel it in the opposite, in the left hamstring, calf, down into your heel. So again, a gentle motion of your front knee towards the wall. And that really stretches out the posterior muscles of the lower leg, and maybe some hamstring in there down to the heel. And now we'll do the left side forward, and we're stretching out the right calf. So left foot goes forward, again keeping a nice straight line from your right heel to your head and shoulders. And we're going to direct the left knee gently towards the wall. Now we're going to get on our knees, work the low half of our body. Make sure you have a nice soft mat or a pad to work on here for your knees. We're going to work the hip flexors this time. So we're going to start from your knees. We're going to put one knee forward, preferably the one furthest away from a bench or wall that I'll show you in a second when we do the side position to stabilize. So your bench is here. The opposite knee farthest away is going to come forward onto your foot. This one is going to stay square, so straight line from knee to hip to your shoulders. And what we're going to do from here is just simply lean forward, push your hips forward a bit, like such. And what you'll feel is a stretch on the inside of your hip here, and possibly the outside as well. Basically, you're stretching your hip flexors Your upper body's nice and tall. And the more you drive your hips equally, don't let yourself twist, equally forward, you'll feel that in your hip flexors. From here, you can actually accentuate the stretch and more of the fascia from your back into your hip and knee by raising your hand and stretching to the side of it. So again, you're stretching, you'll feel the stretch in your lat insertion, your hip side, and also more your hip flexors going down here. Keeping your hips square, not twisting, and holding. And to accentuate it a little more, you can reach up and twist over, lean a bit. Okay, we're going to do the same hip flexor stretch, this time for the right leg, right hip, and we're going to use the wall. If you don't have a bench to stabilize, the wall is great to use. So knees, starting on the knees, put the closest leg forward this time, and direct, keep nice and straight, direct this hip forward, don't twist, and you get that stretch right down here. Hold that, feel that. And then accentuate it by raising the hand up. Nice breath and keeping tall, and then slightly bend towards the wall, and you'll feel that even more so. Lats, hips. This next stretch is for your hamstrings, also lower back, but we're going to be on the mat again. I'm going to turn sideways, use the wall to stabilize as we do this stretch. So turning towards the wall, hand up to stabilize, keeping nice and straight, hips, shoulders all upright. I'm going to put my foot out that's closest to the wall. Again, making sure that I'm not extending the hip out forward, not rotating too much, keeping the hips nice and stacked and straight. So from here, keeping my back nice and straight, I'm actually going to lean forward at the hip joint. So keeping my head, back, neck straight, and I feel that along my hamstring. Back of the knee, even the calf a bit. And so from here, what I can do to accentuate this position is I can draw back my hip that's closest to the wall. So this working, the stretching leg, that hip, I'm going to pull back a bit. And that aligns my hips even better. And I get a nice deep stretch all the way to the root, to the origin of my hamstrings at my hip. And as it loosens up a bit, you can tilt a little more from the hip, being careful not to bend, so keeping nice and straight. And then at the very end of this stretch, you can also target the calves a bit by bringing your toe towards you a bit more. So when you first start, it's relaxed, so you can get it mostly here, the stretch. As you bring your toe towards you, you'll feel it in the calf. Again, making sure to engage your hips, pulling that hip back. We'll continue with the other side for the hamstring stretch. On our knees, on a nice comfortable mat, using the wall to stabilize. Leg closest to the wall goes out. Draw that leg back in by pulling it so that your hips are square. Draw the heel, drag the heel back. So now my hips are nice and square. Nice and stacked with my shoulders, head, neck straight above my hips. Leaning forward from bending at my hips, not curling the back. And holding there. You feel the stretch in the back of your knee, hamstring, all the way in the back of your leg. So we're going to review just some details about this hamstring stretch. The foot closest to the wall goes out and your toes relaxed. This hip is naturally forward as I extend my leg out. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the heel back. So we're going to push this hip closest to the wall. We're going to push it backwards and a bit down even. So let your upper body even turn, exaggerate it. So I'm dragging my heel back. I'm bringing this hip back and I'm turning my upper body even towards the wall a bit slightly. And the reason we're doing that is to really get the top of the hamstring. The hamstring originates from my tailbone, my sit bone, under my leg to the back of my knee, right? So we don't want all the pressure at the knee and that force down in the knee. So we want it pushed back to the back of the hip. So again, dragging this back, the heel back, and pushing that hip down and back will put the pressure at the origin of the hamstring where it originates in the tailbone. And again, by not curling over your back, you're putting the pressure or the stretch in the lower back, not the upper or thoracic back, and you're putting it all at the hamstring and lower back. A good safe stretch position. This is an adductor or groin stretch, known as the butterfly stretch. I like doing this against the wall so that your back, head, neck is all stacked on top of your hips and you're straight. You're going to draw in your feet to your body. Your knees are protruding out to the sides and you're resting your hands gently here. Go to your range of comfort. Don't overdo this one. It does place quite a bit of stress on the outside of the knees, but it also helps the internal rotator stretch in the hips as well. So from here, nicely breathing, keeping nice and straight, putting a little pressure on your knees, pressing down a bit. And as you gain flexibility, you can go further and further, but you don't want to overstrain those ligaments and tendons. So just pushing it to your maximum and holding. This next stretch is for stretching your internal rotators of your hip, and we're going to do this using the wall and our backs on the ground. So we're just going to rotate here. Placing your both feet on the wall to get a good distance away. You may need to move up depending on your flexibility at your hip. So I'm going to cross over one ankle onto the top of the knee. I just place the heel on the quad and my back is nice and flat. That's why we like this position, so that we're not curling over. And I'm going to apply a little pressure on the knee, making sure I'm not going to slip off. I'm nice and sturdy. And you'll feel it on that leg's hip. So I'm putting light pressure here and holding. Okay, we're going to do the other leg for the stretch for the internal rotators of the hip. So we're going to go onto our backs again. Feet on the wall. Bring that ankle up to rest on the quad. Nice and flat. You can scoot in closer to the wall or scoot out depending on your flexibility. Find your spot, put a little pressure on that knee towards the wall, and hold and breathe. So this is for the lower back, hips, good stretch for the outside of the legs as well. We're going to do this on our back. So get comfortable on your back. And we're going to bring one knee up and one hand, the opposite hand to that knee on the outside of the knee. And the left hand is going out. So left knee up, left hand out. Right hand is coming to the outside of that knee. And you're putting pressure to the right and letting yourself turn over at the hips. Trying to keep your shoulders down, but it doesn't have to be forceful. And you'll feel this in the lower back, sometimes all the way up into your ribs of your thoracic rib cage and spine, around the hips, the glutes, and some of your hamstrings and side of your leg, outside of your leg. And it's good to breathe. As you breathe through this one, as you belly breathe through this one, you'll feel yourself relax at different spots. Okay, we're going to do the other side, the right side, for the lumbar and hip stretch. So, lying on your back, bring your right leg up. Left hand goes on the outside of the right hip, of the right knee, and pushing down and rotating. Trying to keep your shoulders on the ground. Don't let it come up too far. And with your breath, you can feel the muscles, the joints relax a little more.